Hello, ladies. Hello, hello. I am so sorry I am a couple minutes late. I got a new, my hair is just flying around. I got a new computer today, a new laptop, and I am learning how to use it, and things aren't working. So even where I'm situated in the camera is different. So bear with me as I figure it out. I am super excited to talk to you today. I wanted to talk about the destinations if we stay the course. Hi, Debbie. If we stay the course of our current life, I feel very small in this new camera setup. If we stay the course in our crazy busy life, what are the outcomes that can happen to us? And part of that outcome is really which road you're going to take, and depending on your life and how you're coping and your coping mechanisms of crazy busy, there are really four roads, and one of them is somewhat of a cuss word. The first, in no particular order either, is bitter. The next one is bitch or bitchy. The next one is burnout. And then, of course, balance, which I really would like you to take that road. And in any given time, my clients and myself have been on each of those roads, and maybe even for a little while had figured out or had a new strategy around work life balance that I thought was doing really well. And then, whoop, there I went right back into crazy busy. Um, the challenge with being so good at living an overwhelming life like we've all become, the challenge of that is we're constantly in motion, and we don't, and in a lot of cases, a lot of my clients use the word stuck. I feel stuck. I feel stuck in the cycle of crazy. I feel stuck in the cycle of busyness. And the word stuck, but it's actually a false assumption, because you're not stuck at all. You are moving down a road that's going to lead you somewhere, because we can't stay completely stuck in our life. It's not possible. So, what we're doing is we're accepting our circumstances, and it's leading us down a road we really don't want to be on. And so, the thing that I do to work with my clients over and over again is to let them see the consequences of living this way, the consequences of being crazy busy. What are the consequences? Because God forbid you're like one of my clients who came because she has such severe migraines and chronic back pain. Something's got to change, because her body is literally screaming at her. I want you to get to me before that happens. I want you to change before your body is screaming at you. In some ways, I love, love, love that quote. Oprah Winfrey says this quote, like, when life is handing you something that looks like a failure, it's saying, excuse me, you're going in the wrong direction. And God will always whisper first, but if he has to scream, he will. And I really believe that if we don't, hi, Chris. If we don't change our lives and start making changes towards what we want to live and how we want to live, there are consequences. And even though we've gotten really good at numbing out our consequences and rationalizing our behavior, even though we've gotten super good at that, they're still in existence. And in a prior video, I talked about when something's wrong with your car, and at first you turn up the radio because it's making this weird noise, and you're turning up the radio so you don't hear it. And then you're like, oh, well, if I let it rest for 20 minutes, it starts up again. Like, you're doing all these coping mechanisms to work around that there's an issue with your car, because you don't have time to bring it into the shop. And then ultimately it breaks down, and you're like, oh, I guess I've got to bring my car into the shop now. I went months, honestly. I had two tires that had a slow leak. And I literally went, I don't know, every other week to blow up my tires at this one particular gas station that wasn't even close to my office, instead of making an appointment and fixing my tires. So my point here is that in your life, you're getting signals that there are consequences for the way you're living your life. And we're turning that down. We're turning all our warning signals down, and we're just keeping on in motion because we're too tired to figure out a different way to live. We're too overwhelmed to figure it out. It's just exhausting to think about how we could possibly, really get more out of our lives. And what I want for all of you is for you to actually think about what you want and ask yourselves questions of what's working, what's not working, where do I get frustrated in my life, where do I get sad, when am I feeling like angry about my circumstances. Take a look at that and answer those questions, and then let's go find a way to get those things solved or achieved. Meaning, if you want something more in your life, let's go after it. If you're unhappy with something, change it. So I bet you give that advice to your girlfriends. I bet you give that advice to your coworkers. I bet you give that advice to your kids when they're struggling with a problem. You're like, how can we fix it? How can we address it? How can we look at this a different way? But when it's happening to us, we tend to just gut through it, keep on walking, because we're the last on our list if we're even on the list. So today I really just wanted you to see that you are on a road, whether you believe it or not. And I want you on the balance road. Like, let's start walking down a road that's going to take us to a life of balance and fun and joy and breath and calm and peace. Instead of a road that's getting us a little bitter. Like, I know for myself that when I was overwhelmed, I used to get really angry about things that never used to make me angry before. And I would do a good job sometimes of masking it, but then it would make me sad because I was shoving it down. And I remember being like in meetings impatient with people because I was so overwhelmed and that meeting was not being run efficiently. And it was like, this is not good use of our time. And I was literally behaving in a way that wasn't my best self, because it was just a waste of my time and I've got something to do and blah, 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 blah. And I was just so stressed that I was behaving in a way that wasn't me. And that's what I would put in that bitter category or bitch category. I know that when I feel stressed, I tend to be short with my daughter at home. That's not who I want to be. And it really has nothing to do with her. It has everything to do with the pressure I'm feeling in my life. And my clients say this to me over and over again, is like, damn it, I went to bed. And then what we do is we go to bed and we feel bad about how we acted and how we got short with somebody or angry with somebody. And we're like, God, I feel bad that I said that. And, I need to go and apologize. And you tread, and then you're not sleeping and you're retreading, you're retreading, you're retreading. And the truth is, there's consequences to living an overwhelming life. And part of that is being bitchy, because you can only handle so much. You're human. The other part is like being resentful of people who seem to have figured it out or aren't working as hard as you or seem to have it all figured out, seem peaceful, leaving the office early, whatever it is. That mom at school that's like making those gourmet lunches for their kid or volunteers and is like the super mom. And you're like, why can't I do that? And you're like resentful and a little angry about it. And then there's burnout. And God knows I've been there 3 times in my life. And my clients get right up to it. And we work out that they don't have to quit their job or step down a link on the ladder, a step on the ladder, to be able to have something for themselves in their life. They need to start living their life differently. And that starts from within first. And we've talked about this a lot, is how do we reprogram the way that we manage our time and behave in the world? And if we're able to do that, and by the way, it's actually not hard to do. It just takes time to learn new concepts and get practice and be aware of what we're doing and what's triggering us in the world. And once we figure that out and we get quiet in our heads and quiet in our heart, we can tackle so much more because we have reserve energy. We're not wasting energy on beating ourselves up or worrying about things that aren't our responsibility or trying to make people happy where it's not our responsibility to make them happy, nor within our power. We're looking for external factors constantly to make us feel good about ourselves instead of just knowing in our hearts that we're living by our values. And, the worst kind of out of sync is out of sync with your integrity with yourself. And like some people call it a spiritual crisis or whatever, but I know that when I am making decisions that are not in alignment with my values, that there is a big price to pay for me. I know that when my clients are saying that, when I ask them what's the most important things in their life, and they say their husband and their child, and being a good friend and being a good mother and being a good wife or being a good sister or daughter or whatever it is. And then they say, and then I say, and so how you doing on that? Like, how much time are you spending doing that? Oh, well, all I do is disappoint people in my life, is what they say to me. And that, when I go to bed at night, that I think I'm blowing it. I'm blowing it with all the most important relationships in my life. But boy, I'm killing it at work, even though and then some say to me, I go to bed every night and I feel like I'm failing on every level, even though all I do is give every single day. Nobody appreciates me. Sometimes I just feel invisible. That is all, that is all the consequences of living a crazy busy life. Feeling invisible, not feeling appreciated, constantly feeling like we're doing more than everybody else, caring more than everybody else. And it takes a toll. And sometimes it takes a toll by weight gain. Sometimes it takes a toll by stomach problems and losing weight. Sometimes it takes a toll by migraines. That was me. And I never lost weight. I always was a stress eater. Sometimes back problems, anxiety, not being able to sleep, insomnia. And so then you start, trying to figure out how to numb yourself or calm yourself down. And it's all towards trying to, like that car, turn up the radio, fill up that little air every 2 weeks instead of actually getting a new tire. And we constantly do that because we're convinced that we either don't have the time to change or don't know it's too late to change, or it's too exhausting to even think about how to re-tackle my life. Or then the total resistance that people say the first time I talk to them. You don't understand. That's the first line of any sentence about where they're about to make an excuse why they can't change. You don't understand. I'm the sole breadwinner in my family. You don't understand. I have a job that I can't just turn off. And you're telling me that I'm supposed to have balance. Well, my job requires me to be available 24/7. So it's just not possible. I just picked the wrong career. I just picked the wrong career. And it's like, well, okay. Everybody's got, a lot of people that I work with have demanding jobs. I had a demanding job. I still do. I was a crisis communications person, spokesperson. When the media calls, I got to get on. And I have a young daughter and all of this stuff. But guess what? When I fixed my insides and how I was behaving in the world and managing my time and reacting to my responsibilities in a healthy way based on my values, I still handle a lot and I still get overwhelmed, but it's a lowercase o. It's not a overwhelmingly slaying me, exhausted, emotionally exhausted overwhelm. It is a, wow, I am a little intimidated by how much I have to do. So I better buckle down and use my tools because I'm going to need it this month or this week or this day. And that's the difference. So this isn't a fantasy world. There is a possibility of living differently. And it's how you're regulating, how you manage your time, and how you react to your responsibilities in your life. And behaving as the adult woman and not this 20-year-old or even younger girl who's looking for outside factors to make herself feel valued, appreciated, all of these things. So what I'm saying here is that you have a choice. You have a choice in your life on which road you're going to take. And I mean, honestly, for me, burnout was like, it felt like a relief. When I got burnout on 2 different jobs, there's a pattern here, and it was me. Leaving that job and starting over and figuring it out was almost a relief, but guess what? It came back and I got burnout in the next one. And by the way, it was my own business, so I was in total control. And then I had to rejigger again. And finally I figured out, like, no, actually, I just keep on applying the same, gutting it out, working 24/7, never disappointing anybody in each of my jobs, that led to burnout. So maybe I should kind of figure out a different way to live. I didn't have to get a different job or a lesser job. I didn't have to do that because I would turn any job into a high performing job because that's just who I am and my integrity. But when I started living my life differently and learning the tools to understand where my lane was and to stay in that lane, to understand where boundaries are and setting boundaries, to use my voice and talk about what I needed, and to teach my clients literally how to say, you know, literally how to behave as the executive they are now instead of the 20-year-old that was trying to prove themselves. That there are things that they shouldn't be doing in their executive position or their senior management position or whatever position they are in now. They shouldn't be doing it, but they don't know how to say no because it's something they've always done. They never want to let anybody down, but they're robbing the people on their team of the experience that they had, and they're not owning their power. Because when we're in crazy busy, even though we feel like we're trying to gain power in our business by trying to please everybody, what we're all by behaving the way that we're behaving in the sense of overdoing everything, we're actually giving away our power. Because people who, have you ever noticed that person that walks in a room and doesn't have to say that they're the senior executive or the highest title in the room? You just know it. That's the point. They're owning their power. They don't have to say it. They don't have to prove it. They just are. And for some reason, women have a really hard time transitioning that in their careers, transitioning that in their life, is standing in their space, saying, I need something, or taking something first, or actually allowing their needs to get met and and disappointing others. It's the hardest thing in the world. And one of the other hard things in the world is to actually say no to something you want to do because it's not in alignment with how you're going to live your life now. So what I'm trying to say here is that our unconscious treadmill that we're living on in this crazy busy has consequences that I want you to start recognizing in your life. When you feel frustrated, when you feel triggered, when you feel angry, when you start to resent somebody else, when you don't show up as your best self because something's happening and you blame it on not having enough time or not sleeping last night or being overwhelmed, just sit for a second in that and feel it. Just sit for a second in it and say, am I willing to live the rest of my life this way? Am I willing to live the rest of my life this way? Because what I'm finding is so many women, when I ask that question, like, what if you don't, when I ask the question whether they're going to join my program or not, and I say, let me just ask you, if you just continue going on like this, what do you think happens? And they always have some version of three things. One is, well, I can only do this for a couple more years. I mean, this is like 2 or 3 years, and then I don't really think I could do it anymore. Or the other is, well, I'm waiting for a signal to change. Or the other is, I don't know. I just don't know. But I know that I can't do what you're asking me to do. I can't change the way I live because my job is really demanding and I don't want to lose my job. And so in each of those scenarios, they're already knowing that something is not right. They're obviously talking to me, so they figured out something is not right and they want to live, but they don't think they can change. And yet somewhere inside them, they know there's a payment coming for the way that they're living their life. And I literally had one client say to me, I'm just waiting for a signal from God. And like something's going to happen where I'm going to be like, you're right. I can't go at this pace anymore. I can't do it. I'm like, well, what are you talking about? Like going to the hospital? She's like, maybe. I'm like, oh my God. And she's like, or really screwing up with one of my children, or really disappointing my husband where we're going to almost get a divorce because my job's going to cost us that. And then you'll do something like, how about, here's an idea, doing something before that happens, because you're here talking to me, you're in this group, Crazy Busy Women in Balance. And obviously you want to live a more balanced life. You want more than what you have right now. So step one is slowing down and not ignoring the warning signals in your life. What is the payment for living your life the way that you are? Are you happy? Do you have time for yourself? Are you showing up as your best person? In the most important relationships in your life? Are you present when you come home or on the weekends with the people that you love? Are you planning things that are fun and actually meeting that commitment and going? What does your life look like? What does your life look like in the next 90 days? What does your life look like in the next 6 months? What does your life look like in the next year if you don't change anything? And are you willing to believe that it could be different and that you could actually want more and have more? And so slow down, look at the consequences of what living your life the way you are is, and start, I don't know, wishing let's just start there. That for little things, a little more in your life, a little more you, a little more time for yourself, maybe being a little more present for people in your life. Just start wishing for it being different. Don't give up already before you've even tried. And recognize that you're making a choice in your life, a, unconscious or conscious, I don't know because I don't know you yet, choice in your life to live this way. It's not happening to you. It is not happening to you. You are responsible for the way that you live your life. And when you think about your highest level values and what you really pride yourself on being and who you represent in this world, are you living your life in alignment with those? And if you are, fantastic. And then it's just really trying to have some strategies around time management, although I don't necessarily believe in time management, but having some strategies around staking out time for the things that are important and being in integrity with keeping those commitments to yourself. But if you're not living in alignment with how you truly believe who you are in this world, your values, and how you want to show up in the world, then something's got to change, because you're going to be living in an out of integrity with yourself, and there is going to be a huge payment at some point. There just is. It's just happened. So it's burnout, it's bitch, it's bitter, or it's more. And I don't want you to get to any of those. And I really would like to help you. So my tip for today is to really just slow down and recognize and get into the conscious of what this is costing you, and take responsibility that it is a choice. Because if you do that, I swear to God, things will start to shift. And little ideas will enter in, like, I really do want something more. I really do want to take time. Like one of my clients, it's as simple as taking time for Pilates 3 times a week. And she couldn't seem to figure it out, and she did. And it changed everything because it showed her world didn't fall apart. Another one of my clients, it was literally setting a boundary with one colleague that she wasn't going to continue to save him on his job. And she figured out how to do that in a way that set boundaries and didn't make the company fall down. And it's almost like proving to yourself that if you take a little space, a little piece of property in your life just for you, and change one thing, and then look and see that the world didn't crumble without you, that it gives you courage to take that next step and that next step. And then you start getting greedy and say, oh, wait, I want a totally different life. And I am going to be, here's the amazing thing that happens is when you are living in alignment with your values and you solve the reprogramming of all the things that are exhausting you, you actually can be more present at work and be even better at your job. And probably, like, one of my clients got a promotion because she was actually showing up and being a better collaborator and more excited for work, because she wasn't so damn exhausted all the time and angry about being so exhausted, because she took a claim, staked a claim, took some time for herself, had a morning routine, and was able to show up with work in a way that was really powerful. And it changed everything in her life. So it's just those little pieces of property you're going to take and just test out. I'm going to do something that I perceive as selfish, which isn't, and see if the world falls apart. It doesn't. I guarantee it won't, because you all are too responsible, or you wouldn't be crazy busy. So that is my advice for you today: is pay attention to the consequences. Take responsibility for the life you're living, because it is a choice. And then maybe, just maybe, start to experiment with these teeny little things you're going to start to do for yourself, and then witness that the world doesn't crumble. Okay? So thank you for joining. I know I didn't give you guys a lot of notice. I hope everybody watches this even if they couldn't join live. Thanks, girls, for joining. And just stake a claim, just a little teeny claim for something in your life, and see what happens. Okay? Bye.